Welcome to Vancouver Carpenter. So how are we going to fix this ugly drywall to wood transition? So this is the edge of a door jamb, and there's obviously no way you can put a silly piece of trim on this. So we got to fix this up. And no, we're not just going to spray foam it and spackle it. There is a little bit more to this, but it is a pretty simple fix also. What we are going to do is install a J-trim, but the first thing we need to do is make sure that there's actually space for the J-trim to fit in here. Otherwise, that's not going to work. So the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of carve off some of these ragged edges and make sure that I have about 1/8 of space in here. Pardon me, I know I said J-trim, but I actually mean L-edge. Putting a J-trim in here would be technically impossible. So I'm even going to go the extra mile and cut out this chunk. Nice and cleaned out. Next, what's an L-edge? So an L-edge has this part right here. This is actually a 5/8 one. Thankfully there's enough room. But usually you'd use a 1/2 inch piece of L-edge. So this part's 1/2 inch, and that's made to cover the bare edge of the drywall in there. And then it's like a regular corner bead in that it has this tape-on flange. So it gets installed this way. Okay, so why are we using an L-edge? I mean, we could just pre-fill it and flat tape it like I've done in a lot of videos. And that would generally be adequate. The reason I'm using an L-edge in this case, so we're just cutting it with tin snips, is because an L-edge covers all the gaps real nicely. It stays really nice and straight, so when you install this, it's going to leave a nice straight line. Okay, so I've managed to get it to fit real nicely. And now I'm just going to be using all-purpose light mud. You can use all-purpose heavyweight, or all-purpose, I was going to say all-purpose taping. But yeah, just using all-purpose light to install this. So it's pretty straightforward here. Just going to mud this up. And normally I would pre-fill that big gap down there, but it'll be okay. Down at the bottom close to where our baseboard is going to be. So we just slip the L-edge into here. So again, the reason that I'm doing this is to give it a nice, smooth, consistent line instead of kind of a wavy, hand-applied tape line. Gives you a nice edge to feather against too. And then wipe the mud out. Okay, once that's done, you can apply a coat to it. It's going to take longer than overnight to dry usually, unless you have a fan and heat. Feather your edges. And then find the nose of that bead and pull it off nice and smooth. Looks like I could take more mud out from under that flange because I can see it too much. So let's do a little bit more of that. It's one thing about L-edges. You want to get the mud out from under them. Not so much that there isn't any, but enough that you can't see it when you go to coat it. So let's try that again. Feather. Feather. And in this case, 6 inches for a first coat is enough. It'll hide it. Something in my mud as usual. causing me problems, you guys. This is embarrassing. That flange wasn't set in enough, again. So the mud was wiped out from the tape, but the flange was sitting a little proud, so now I'm pushing that down. This is truly embarrassing. Can't believe it. But I'm actually not going to edit all this stuff out for you guys. But that'll actually help you see some of the problems that can happen. If you have too much mud under the flange of the bead, so that's the metal part, then what it's going to do is it's going to be proud like that, and you're not going to be able to bury it. So, back to square one. Man, way to make a long video out of this one. Should have been a quick coat. Well, I guess I haven't been installing enough L-edges lately. First one in a while, actually. Feather my head again. Okay, now let's take the mud off the nose of that bead. That's better. Can't see the flange anywhere. That's how I want it to look. There we go. Much better. That's acceptable. Don't worry about this stuff. You can sand it off before your next coat. Alright, now I'm going to put a fan on this. And it should be dry enough to coat tomorrow. So it's looking good. We can see where it shrank. Tiny bit of cracking there, but that's no big deal. Once it shrinks up, you can see the flange and everything. So I'm just going to sand the little niblets away from the corner. Crisp up that corner real quick. And sand the lift off. Sand the edge. And that's good. Now it's ready for one more quick coat. In this case, 6-inch knife is going to be far enough to feather it out. You won't really be able to get your eyeball on it. The only place that you might be able to a little bit is actually down here where the baseboard is going to go. So I'm going to build that out just a little bit. So it's looking pretty smooth there. Got a lift off. And you can see down here where I added all that extra mud. It doesn't look too pretty. Most of it's going to be under a baseboard and it's going to be flat after I sand it anyways. But that little bit right there is going to stop it from flaring out over 6 inches. So now it's over about 12 inches so you won't see it on the baseboard. You guys, I forgot my light at home today. But basically, it's just a quick sand. No, I don't need a mask. I'm not breathing. Tradesman mask. Pardon me, the tradesman special mask. I don't think it works, but it makes me feel better. Okay, and I also don't have any other light, but you know, here's a handy little tip. You can look for the little stuff with your phone. I wouldn't do a whole job like this, but just a little thing like this. Like, that needs a bit of work. That needs a bit. That needs a bit. But I don't have my tradesman special on anymore. I'll tune up here. And we are good, but we are not done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to prime this, and then I'm going to caulk that gap. I'm not breathing. Okay, I didn't actually mean caulk the gap, because there's no gap there anymore. Oh, this old paint is thick. Barely wants to shake. At least it'll dry quick. What I actually meant is caulk where the two dissimilar materials join. So we've got wood, and then we've got drywall. And even though I did such a nice, pretty job of finishing that, it's gonna crack. However, if we prime it up and then get some caulking in between where those two materials meet, it's much less likely to crack. However, if anyone slams this door, it's gonna crack. Now, don't think that means shoddy workmanship, because, I mean, how many times have you seen cracked molding, cracked casing from a slammed door? Basically, the moral of the story is don't slam your door if you don't want to see cracks by your doors. This duster brush is a crappy brush. I don't actually use it to paint with, but I don't have my painting gear with me today, so it'll be good enough to spread a little primer here. And the lighting on this one exact spot is poor enough that it's not going to show that I brushed the wall. Okay, I can live with that. Let's let that dry, come back and caulk it. Okay, now we just finish it off with that bead of caulking. And I'm not going to wipe it out too tight. I want to actually leave a little bit of that material in there, even though it's going to round it out a little bit. Because the strength is actually in leaving a bit of that material in there. I also want to clarify that it's not going to crack at this joint. What will crack is the drywall mud if the door gets slammed really hard, because it's brittle. Anyways, I'm happy with that now. Well, there's one more little mess cleaned up on this long ongoing job. Anyways, thanks for watching Vancouver Carpenter. Hopefully you got something useful out of this video. Lots more coming up. Till the next one.